Hello and welcome to a special edition of On the Whistle. Sorry, I'm just getting used to my new selfie stick, so if it bobbles a little bit, then that's why. James and I have just met Régis Le Bris for the first time at the Academy of Light. He's held his first press conference. You've sent in a few questions, which we'll get to in a bit, but you can join us on the start of our walk home. James, first impressions?
Very French, isn't he? I like him a lot. I think his humour's quite good. He answered a lot of questions in quick succession very well, I thought, with good humour, with a smile on his face. Very direct, very to the point. I feel like he's got a strong vision. I just think, the proof's always in the pudding though, isn't it? But my first impressions was really likeable guy. I think what's really interesting, we've spoken a lot on the Raw podcast, you've spoken about it on the Whistle as well, that ability to connect, and I felt like he did that despite English not being his first language. I thought that was hugely impressive. But I didn't sit there during Michael Beale's press conference and think this guy's a terrible head coach and it's not going to work. So you just never know, do you? But first impressions were very good, and I thought he made a good couple of jokes, and he sort of read the room well. So first impressions good.
You never know, do you? I remember Chris Coleman gave the best press conference I'd ever seen when he first came here, and that didn't really foretell what was going to come. Listen, we definitely learned a few things about him. Very studious, very meticulous. I can see straight away why he's got on with Kirill, because he's obviously got really strong ideas about coaching, about the process. That's obviously his focus rather than transfers or that kind of thing. It's a lazy comparison, but it's an obvious one. Arsene Wenger definitely came to mind. No, it's true though, isn't he? Very thoughtful, the intelligent deep thinker, very methodical, I think. And I think the main thing I got was, I think he's going to sound the same after wins and defeats. I think he's going to be very detailed tactically, but he's probably going to keep, I don't think we're going to get loads of answers on him in transfers and stuff. So I think very methodical, very thoughtful. And I think it'll be a calm presence, which is good. Whether it'll be any good beyond that, obviously time will tell. Okay, James, get into some questions here.
Yes, let's get into some questions while we have a little walk. Ethan Todd, our friend Ethan Todd, says, was it typical talk, a good game in the first presser, or does it genuinely seem as though the club have the perfect fit in RLB?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously you never know, and everyone is happy with the process, and everyone is happy with the recruitment model, and everyone's happy with their roles in the first press conference. Michael Beale was as well, and then actually when you get in the heat of it and the pressure's on, things change a bit. I definitely think, I've probably answered already a little bit, Ethan, but I think you can tell straight away why Kirill and him got on, why Kirill was really keen on this appointment. I think that you could tell that he's focused on coaching, he's focused on about individual development, very interested in details. When he talked about his coaching staff, he talked about hinted he might want a set piece coach, all these kind of things. So I think the main thing I took about from it is that I feel like there's going to be a lot better alignment behind the scenes. I think everyone's going to be a bit more polite. I don't think he's sort of an old school manager who's going to be frustrated with his limitations, and I think hopefully that'll mean it'll be a bit more seamless and there'll be a bit less friction, certainly publicly. So I've no idea whether he's going to, whether it is just sort of first press conference, honeymoon kind of thing, but it definitely feels like a better fit than probably some of the predecessors.
No, and it could be just honeymoon period as well, but the impression I get having been around the place today is that he's actually given the place a little bit of a lift. People seem quite happy. I spoke to a couple of staff members who sort of said that he's a really nice guy and he's really lifted the energy of the place. So I think those are really good signs. But as you say, it's a honeymoon period and there's no games to lose yet, so you just never know, do you? Let's have a look at another question that we have here. John Ridley says, where can I buy the home shirt, Phil? Nowhere, John.
John, you're asking the wrong person. I'm assured it'll be back in stock soon, but you're asking the wrong person there, as I suspect you well know.
Chris Scott asks a really good question, actually. He says, are the club more committed to RLB than they were Neil or Mowbray? Obviously, Neil had a rolling contract. Mowbray came in on a short notice, albeit doing very well. Even Beale felt like an afterthought, no assistant, little backing in January. Will RLB have input and patience? It's an interesting question. It gets lost that actually Michael Beale was given quite a long contract at Sunderland.
Yeah, I think, listen, I think that, as I said, I think RLB is a better fit for what they want, and so that gives me some confidence that I think this could run a lot longer than any of those managers did.
You'd hope so.
You'd hope so, yeah.
It is my life's ambition to see a Sunderland manager complete a full season.
Listen, but there's context to why, especially Neil and Mowbray came in. Neil was to get out of that division. Yeah. Tony Mowbray was very much to stabilise, and I think you always felt that they were not short-term appointments, but there was a specific reason why they were appointed. Whereas I think with Régis Le Bris, I think that you can see there's a bit more of a long-term plan, especially because of his record in player development, the fact he worked so long in academies. So I think there is an element of that, but he has to win. It's Sunderland. It's all well and good having development. He has to win games.
This one comes from Tony Byrne. Excellent question from Tony. He says, Will we be playing an aggressive high press, or does it sound like he prefers to sit back and concede possession? I think one of the main takeaways for me from that press conference was that he wants to instill a specific type of playing style specific to Sunderland, and I think that will involve a high press. I think that's pretty certain from that press conference.
I think one thing that came across very clearly was there was a lot of talk about his team at Lorient last season, which was 3-4-2-1 and very counter-attacking.
And he said 4-4-2 defending, didn't he? Which I thought was interesting.
He made very clear that that was because of the players he had and because of the transfer window where they lost a lot of players. He talked about his influences, the two names he mentioned were Guardiola and De Zerbi.
Yep.
He talked about a high press. He made it very, very clear, I think, that the Lorient team of last season was not the team he wanted. So the indications very strongly whether it's going to be a possession-based, high-pressing style. The only thing he said was it's a long old season and they're long old games, and basically you can't press the life out of the opposition all the time because you'll burn out. So, but yeah, he definitely did.
I really, really liked the answer where he said he was asked in the press conference who his sort of footballing idols were, the people who he looked up to in a coaching sense, and he said Pep Guardiola, his time at Barcelona, Robert De Zerbi, his time at Sassuolo, but then he said but I'm Régis Le Bris and this is Sunderland, so I won't be doing that. And I thought that was actually brilliant because it got a little bit of a laugh. It broke the ice a little bit. And it's true, isn't it? You can't be Barcelona of 2008, 9, 10 because this is Sunderland. It's going to be slightly different. Let's move on to the next question. Sean says, do you think it's positive that we are interviewing new coaching staff, or negative that there won't be from Le Bris' old club? It's a really, really interesting question. Before you delve into it, I think one thing you do have to note is that when Still was coming in, they were prepared to bring a couple of assistants with him. So I don't think it's a question of Sunderland being unwilling, but it seems to me like it's one of those where they just want to make sure they get it right.
Yeah,
I can understand why it's a question.
Le Bris made it pretty clear that there would be his decision, and it was his decision that he'd only been at Lorient for a couple of years as a head coach. He doesn't have a set of staff who he really wants to depend on, who he knows that well. He made it pretty clear that he was happy to take his time and that he wanted to add some new voices. So I can see it both ways. I think Michael Beale definitely suffered from not having people around him that he could lean on, I think, in difficult times. But Le Bris made pretty clear that for him it's about the attributes that the coaching staff bring, it's about what they add. And so to be honest, I think it seems fairly clear to me that it'll be his decision, and that means that I'm fairly relaxed about that. Should we just about call it there, James? We've been talking for a little while and it is pretty windy.
Moment from you, Phil, from Régis Le Bris press conference?
Well, I asked him if he had an idea about where he wanted Joe Bellingham to play, and he gave a very interesting response to me, which he said, I have a very, very, very clear idea. But then he said, I haven't spoken to him yet, so I'll speak to him first and let you know. But it was interesting, he's clearly studied the squad a lot because he knew exactly where Job was going to play.
My main takeaway came from a question after a national journalist asked if he'd been watching the Euros, and he said, no, I haven't had a chance, not even the French games, because I've been so busy.
There you go.
So I think that sums up the magnitude of Régis Le Bris' task and his dedication to it at the Academy of Light so far.
There you go. Just one other thing to mention, we were lucky enough to watch a bit of training when we came down as well.
Yep.
Got to see Dan Neil in full training, Jay Matete, Elliot Embleton, Dennis Sirkin. That's one huge positive, really. It looks like Le Bris has started pre-season with a pretty strong squad. And also good to see, like I said, Tommy Watson, Caden Kelly in there as well. So yeah, that's...
Can we just say Anthony Patterson was unbelievable?
Yeah, his reflexes are a joke, man. His reflexes are a joke. We'll leave you with that. Thanks very much for sending your questions in. Hopefully we've given you a little bit of insight. As ever, all the quotes and all the stories will be up on the website, so just head over to sunderlandecho.com for all the latest. Thanks for watching.